Okay, so in this game, I play Mordekaiser and I begin top lane, playing against Maokai or however you say that guy's name. So I thought I'd showcase this game because it was a little bit different to most that I play with Mordekaiser. I take a different approach to how I play compared to most games. And in this game I ended up getting an S, so I thought this would be a good game to show. So a breakdown of Mordekaiser's abilities. Mordekaiser's Q, he smashes his mace on the ground in a direction of your choice, so it's not champion or target based, it's just directional, so you can miss his Q. There you would see my passive. So Mordekaiser's passive, although it doesn't look quite right in the replay, his passive generates a aura of damage around Mordekaiser for a few seconds if he's damaged a champion or large monster with 3 or more attacks or abilities. Along with the aura of damage, he also gets a little bit of extra movement speed as well. So with that aura, he can damage monsters, and that means he needs to do fewer attacks to actually kill the monster, so it makes him an effective jungler as well. What you'll see under Mordekaiser's health bar is a white bar which builds up based on how much damage he deals and how much damage he takes. And that bar determines his potential shield that he can gain with his W. So he stores a potential shield with that. If you cast W, you will grant yourself an amount of shield based on how much of the bar you've built up. If you second cast it, you actually gain a portion of your health back. So it allows Mordekaiser to have great sustain and stay in lane for as long as possible. And coupled with that, he doesn't have mana, so he doesn't have to be restricted by the amount of mana that he has. So usually when the opposing champ goes back, and so the only reason that I would go back to base with Mordekaiser is if I wanted to buy something or if my health was way too low. I'm not really restricted a lot of the time based on health. Even if my health was around half, I wouldn't need to go back for that, just because I can use his W to grant myself some health. Mordekaiser's E, which I use quite often, is a grab. So it's a little bit like Thresh and Pike's Hook, except it's not based on just one target. It grabs every target in an area that the large hand can grab, and it pulls them towards Mordekaiser. So you'll see me use that quite often. Mordekaiser's ultimate takes the opponent into a death realm, which in my opinion is important for 2 main things. One of those things is taking the opponent into the death realm steals some of the opponent's stats, so I get a little bit of their armor, a little bit of their attack, etc. So taking the opponent into the death realm not only makes them weaker, but makes me stronger. So it gives me a better chance to kill them. Oh, I thought I could get him there, but I didn't. See, right now my shield bar was quite high, and I just thought I'd use that to grant myself some health rather than keep that for a shield later on. I usually try and save the amount of shield that I get for a trade, or if I'm going into their turret zone to attack them, then I save the shield for that, because that allows me to keep my health as high as possible. Another main reason for taking them into the death realm is to prevent them from escaping, because it's a circular enclosure and they can't go beyond a certain point, so it's difficult for him to get away. If the opposing champion is too close to their turret, I won't use my ultimate, because using my ultimate when they're too close to their turret, they can hide in their turret zone, and the turrets are still active in the death realm. But all other champions and all other minions are left outside of the death realm, but turrets are still active in the death realm. So I make sure that if I'm going to use my ultimate in a one-on-one with the opposing champion, I make sure that they are far enough from their turret that if they try and move into their turret zone, I can still kill them without actually entering it. So that's what I did there for my first kill against Maokai. I used my ultimate when he was just far enough from his turret zone so that I could get the kill and he couldn't escape. One great way to use the ultimate in a team fight is if you take a champion into the death realm, that takes their champion, one of the opposing champions, out of the team fight completely. So it not only potentially grants you a kill, but it also prevents the team from having to fight an extra player, and you're most likely going to be in a better position to get a kill in a one-on-one rather than a team fight. Being in the death realm also benefits Mordekaiser's Q, because Mordekaiser's Q, which is his mace smash on the ground, it hurts anybody that falls within the area of damage. So if there are 5 minions, then some of the damage is split between some of the minions and the champion. But in the death realm, because there are no other opponents, if I use my Q and it hits only one target, then it deals a larger amount of damage. So that's an effective way to use Mordekaiser's Q as well. I just got my shield there. I think I could have potentially died if I didn't have it, so I was really lucky that my W cooled down. So his W is really, really good when it comes to trading and when it comes to team fights, etc. So what I do is, because Q is Mordekaiser's main damaging ability, I max out my Q first, then I max out my W, so I get the shield. And the grab, it's not really done for damage, and so the grab doesn't need to be maxed out really. The only reason to ever max out the grab is to reduce the cooldown on it, but that's not too big of a deal. Oftentimes what I do is I save my ultimate for situations where I think I would be ganked. So if the opposing team is going for a gank on me, I save my ultimate for that, and ganks are effectively useless because taking one of the champions into the death realm means the other champion is just sitting around outside just waiting for the fight to finish, essentially. And by that time I could have lowered their health enough so that I'm not really in a bad position, or I could have killed the champion that I took away, and that also puts me in a much better position to fight a one-on-one. So ganks are really ineffective against a Mordekaiser which has his ultimate. Also, because you don't have to worry about mana with Mordekaiser, you can constantly use your abilities on minions. I just thought I'd go into the enemy jungle and deter their jungler a little bit, set him back. If he doesn't have some of the monsters to kill, I just thought it would put our jungler in a better position over theirs, because Kayn is quite an effective jungler. He levels up really quickly in the jungle, so any help that I can give my jungler, I will. So I went around the wall there, just because I didn't want him to see that I was coming, because I know that he would definitely run, especially being a couple of levels behind me now. So I wanted to go around, make sure that I got him before he could get away, and use my ultimate. Now, there have been 1 or 2 team fights with my team, and there will be more, especially revolving drakes and ganks and such. But I pretty much stay in lane for the majority of the game, apart from the times when my team really needs me. I think I prioritized lane a lot more than team fights, just because a team fight over a Drake didn't seem as important to me as getting a turret, or getting half a turret, for example. I think that's a lot more effective than getting a Drake. I pushed top lane way too far down, so I thought I could just go get Rift on my own. Worked out, no problem, still have full health. Came back, pushed top lane a bit. Now that top lane has been pushed, I can release Rift mid lane, and I can help mid lane progress as well. It's probably going to be a 2-on-1. I'm not worried because of my level, and Kayn is 4 levels below me, so I wasn't worried. Again, I lost quite a bit of health there, so I thought it was best to use my ultimate, give myself a 1-on-1 chance rather than a 2-on-1, and the 1-on-1 actually worked in my favor. If Kayn was a couple of levels higher, I could have died there, but I was lucky enough to be a couple of levels ahead and survive. I thought to release Rift top lane, because top lane has been pushed quite a lot. Mid lane hasn't really taken much. Mid lane still has all of its turrets for blue team, and so does bottom lane, so I thought I'd just push top, really pressurize them. If I can take down the inhibitor here, that would be perfect. Okay, so a couple of them showed up. I didn't want to engage in battle, especially with my health and so close to their base. So the items I've built on Mordekaiser so far. The first item I build is Nash's, giving myself cooldown reduction and also giving myself ability power. Next I'm going for Rabadon's Death Cap. It gives myself a lot of ability power, and most of Mordekaiser's damage, as I mentioned earlier, comes from his Q, so you'd want to build ability power with Mordekaiser, or I do anyway. So now I'm just thinking about pushing top lane. I'm not thinking about going mid, helping whoever needs it. No lane is really struggling right now. Bottom lane is fine. Bottom lane is fine. Mid lane is fine. So I'm just thinking, let me push top lane. If I can get an inhibitor, then they'll be really set back because they'll have to focus on those big minions. Not only did I get an inhibitor there, I also destroyed their inner turret. So that's really essential. But instead of going for their second turret, I thought, you know what, let me just see if my team need any help. Probably shouldn't have used my ultimate there, but alright, no big deal. And that's 3. Alright, so I came in at the perfect time. I guess Mordekaiser is a bit like Gandalf in this game. Those are the kind of team fights that I would want to come for, as opposed to those that are fighting over the drakes and stuff, because some drakes just aren't as important as winning your lane. And that's important to understand, because I think a lot of people prioritize drakes over anything else, just because they've seen other people do it or the rest of their team do it. Drakes are not as important as pushing your lane. If you have a free lane to push your lane. It's a lot more important. You might want to go for late drakes or elder dragons, but early drakes really aren't as important. Now top lane and middle lane on the opposing team have been pushed right to the nexus. Both inhibitors are destroyed, which means they're put in a really bad position, and they have a lot of catching up to do if they want a chance of winning. That kill was just stolen from me, but I'll allow it. Also, in this game, I play with a Yuumi on my team, but just to mention, a lot of the time, an opposing team might have a Yuumi on it, and a Yuumi with a very fed opposing champion can be quite dangerous. What you can do with Mordekaiser is, and this is what I do very, very often, you can use your ultimate on the player that has Yuumi attached to them. And what it does is it separates Yuumi from that player. So not only does it make the player weaker and myself stronger, like I mentioned earlier, but it also detaches the player from Yuumi and they've become a lot weaker than they would have been. So that allows you to potentially get a kill on that player and give your team a massive advantage. So just a tip that I can give for Mordekaiser. So top lane have got its inhibitor back on the opposing team, so not the best, because that means they are catching up quite well, but this gave us a chance to get a couple of kills, get the Baron and get the Drake. Even though they've defended their base quite well, we've still progressed a lot more than they have. Now they have no outer turrets. It's pretty much game over, especially based on the number of kills on each team. Now, it might seem like we're just completely dominating them, but there's nobody on my team or their team that looks really threatening apart from me. But in a lot of games where you have one dominating player on the opposing team, you have a good chance of making a comeback if somehow you eliminate that dominating player early on in a team battle, but that doesn't happen in this game. I don't know what Kane's plan was. I don't want to step into that area. I've regretted dying so many times by stepping a little bit too far. And that's the game.